The Roman Legionary, the most efficient and feared soldier of the ancient world. We see them in movies as invincible killing machines, conquerors of the known world. But what was the man behind the helmet really like? What did he eat for breakfast? What were his deepest fears? What was the grueling, brutal, and often monotonous reality of a single day in his life? Welcome to Ancient Lives. Here we explore the forgotten stories of the people who built our world. If you believe that history is made by ordinary people in extraordinary circumstances, consider liking this video and subscribing for more journeys into the past. Now, forget the myths. This is the true story of a day in the life of Gaius Vibius, a legionary on Hadrian's wall in the year 122 AD. For Gaius Vibius, the day does not begin with the gentle light of dawn. It begins in the suffocating, pre-dawn blackness, ripped from a shallow, dreamless sleep by a sound that chills the very marrow in his bones, the harsh, brassy call of the buccina, the legion's horn. It is a sound that promises no comfort, only toil. He opens his eyes to the familiar sight of the contubernium, his barrack room, a cramped, damp space made of rough-hewn wood and cold stone, shared with 7 other men who are his family, his rivals, and his lifeline. The air is thick with the smell of sweat, damp wool, and the lingering smoke from last night's lamps. He swings his legs off his hard, straw-filled mattress, his bare feet hitting the freezing dirt floor. There is no time for grogginess, no moment to linger in the warmth of his thin, woolen blanket. Hesitation in the Roman army is a form of weakness, and weakness is a disease purged with the centurion's unforgiving rod. Around him, his tent mates move with a practiced, silent efficiency. They pull on their coarse woolen tunics, cinch their heavy leather belts, and strap on their sandals. Every movement is economical, stripped of any unnecessary flourish. These are men who understand that wasted energy is a luxury they cannot afford. Breakfast is not a meal, it is fuel. There is no communal table, no warm fire. Gaius takes his ration, a single dense brick of panis militaris, the soldier's bread. It is hard, dry, and baked to last for weeks, designed to be durable, not delicious. He breaks it with his calloused hands, the sound a dull crack in the quiet of the barrack. To wash it down, he fills his wooden cup with posca, a mixture of soured wine or vinegar and water. It's acidic, sharp, and surprisingly refreshing, a cheap and effective way to purify water and quench a soldier's thirst. This simple, functional meal is all that stands between him and a day of back-breaking labor. As the first faint gray light begins to bleed over the horizon, the legionaries file out of their barracks onto the muddy parade ground. The air is bitingly cold, the mist clinging to the wooden palisades of the fort. They fall into perfect formation, their breath pluming in the frigid air. The centurion, a scarred, muscular giant of a man named Longinus, walks down the line. His eyes miss nothing, a loose strap, a sign of illness, a flicker of fear. A single great fight. Sharp command cuts through the morning air, and 800 men move as one. The day has begun. There will be no rest until the sun has long set. For a Roman legionary, every day is a battle, even when there is no enemy in sight. For the Roman legion, a soldier who could not march was not a soldier at all. He was a liability. And so, the first order of business after the morning muster was the march. Not a leisurely stroll, but a grueling, soul-crushing test of endurance. Gaius and his comrades hoist their gear. First, the iconic armor, the lorica segmentata, a masterpiece of articulated steel plates that, while offering excellent protection, weighed a punishing 20 kilograms. Then comes the heavy shield, the scutum, clutched in one hand. The helmet, the galea, cinched tight, and on his back, the sarcina, a heavy pack containing everything a soldier needed to survive and fight. Rations for 3 days, a cooking pot, a shovel, 2 heavy wooden stakes for building fortifications, and his personal effects. In total, he carries over 40 kilograms of weight, the equivalent of a small person strapped to his body. Under the cold, gray sky of Britannia, they march. 20 miles in 5 hours. It is a relentless, rhythmic agony. The straps of the pack dig into his shoulders. His sandals, the caligae, designed for durability, rub his feet raw. Sweat mixes with the dust of the road, creating a gritty film on his skin. This is the true face of the Roman war machine. Not the glory of battle, but the monotonous, painful, and disciplined act of putting one foot in front of the other, endlessly. But the march is only the beginning. Upon their return to the fort, exhausted and aching, the real training begins. On the muddy grounds of the campus, the training field, they are handed their practice weapons. But these are no mere replicas. The wooden practice sword, the rudis, and the wicker and leather shield are twice the weight of their real counterparts. The logic was simple and brutal. If you could fight with these for hours, a real gladius and scutum would feel as light as a feather in the heat of battle. The centurion drills them relentlessly. Attack, defend, parry, over and over. They are not trained as individual duelists, but as parts of a single interlocking machine. They practice forming the testudo, the legendary tortoise formation, their shields overlapping to create an almost impenetrable shell against enemy arrows. They are a wall of wood, leather, and iron, moving as one organism. Every movement is precise, drilled into their muscle memory until it is as natural as breathing. Yet even this is not the end of their labors. A Roman legionary was as much an engineer as he was a soldier. When not marching or fighting, they were building, always building. After weapon practice, Gaius's unit is tasked with reinforcing a section of Hadrian's wall. They trade their swords for shovels, picks, and trowels. They quarry stone, mix mortar, and haul heavy blocks into place under the watchful eye of their centurion. They dig defensive ditches, build watchtowers, and pave roads that will last for centuries. The Roman Empire was not just conquered with the sword. It was built, mile by bloody mile, by the sweat and labor of its legionaries. For Gaius, this is his day, a day of marching, fighting, and building, a day of being forged, physically and mentally, into a single, perfect component of the most powerful army the world had ever known. After the morning's brutal exertion, there is no respite. The afternoon is a time for toil of a different kind. The endless, monotonous, and psychologically draining work of maintaining the frontier. For Gaius, this means guard duty. His post is a lonely watchtower on the northern face of Hadrian's wall, the very edge of the Roman world. For hours, he stands alone, a solitary figure in the vast, unforgiving landscape. The wind is relentless, whipping across the stone, seeping through the gaps in his armor. Before him lies the untamed wilderness of Caledonia, a rolling expanse of mist-shrouded hills, dark forests, and bogs. It is a land of ghosts and shadows, the home of the Picts, the fierce blue-painted tribes who refuse to bow to the might of Rome. This is a different kind of battle, a battle against boredom, against the cold, and against the constant gnawing tension in his gut. Every shadow in the mist could be a raiding party. Every snapping twig in the wind could be an approaching enemy. A moment's inattention, a lapse in vigilance, could mean a Pictish arrow in his throat. His life, and the lives of his comrades in the fort, depend on his unwavering focus. And his focus is absolute, for he fears the barbarians in the mist far less than he fears the man patrolling the wall behind him, his centurion. The hierarchy of the legion is as rigid and unforgiving as Roman steel. The centurion is a god in his own small world, with the power of life and death over his men. Even the slightest infraction, but dirty spear, a moment of drowsiness on watch, is met with swift and brutal punishment. The castigatio, a beating with the centurion's staff, is a common occurrence, a painful reminder that discipline is the foundation of their world. There is no room for error. Every soldier is a vital link in a chain, and a single weak link could lead to disaster for them all. When his watch is over, the work continues. Gaius joins a small patrol, marching along the military road that runs parallel to the wall. They inspect the fortifications, repair sections of the turf wall, and clear brush that could provide cover for an ambush. It is endless, thankless labor, far from the glorious battles depicted on the columns in Rome. This is the reality of empire, not constant conquest, but the grueling, day-in, day-out work of holding the line against a hostile world. It is a war of attrition, fought not with swords, but with shovels, axes, and sheer bloody-minded perseverance. As the pale northern sun finally dips below the horizon, a semblance of peace settles over the fort. The evening hours are the legionaries' own, a brief respite from the iron grip of their commanders. But free time is a misleading term. For a soldier, it is merely a different kind of work, the work of maintaining oneself. The first order of business is dinner, the main meal of the day. It is a communal affair, eaten with his 7 tentmates. Tonight's meal is a thick, hearty porridge of wheat and barley, known as pulse, flavored with salt and whatever vegetables the foragers were able to find. On a good day, it might contain a few scraps of salted pork or goat. It is not a feast, but it is hot, filling, and a welcome comfort after a day of cold and labor. After the meal, the quiet rituals of a soldier's life begin. Gaius meticulously cleans his armor, scouring away the day's mud and sweat, checking each leather strap and metal buckle. A well-maintained set of gear is the difference between life and death. Others in his tent are sharpening their swords, repairing their sandals, or gambling away their meager pay on a game of dice, their quiet curses and laughter a familiar soundtrack to the evening. Later, by the flickering light of an oil lamp, Gaius takes out a small hinged set of wooden tablets coated in blackened beeswax. With a pointed stylus, he carefully scratches a letter to his family, hundreds of miles away, in a sunny Italian village he can barely remember. He doesn't write of the fear or the cold. He writes of his health, asks about the harvest, and sends his love. It is a small, fragile connection to the world he left behind, a reminder of the life he is fighting to one day return to. These are the moments that forge the true strength of the legion, not the brutal discipline or the superior tactics, but the brotherhood, the contubernium. These 8 men, crammed into a tiny leather tent or a cold stone barrack, they are more than just soldiers. They have marched together, bled together, and faced death together. They share their food, their money, and their deepest fears. They are a family, bound by an unbreakable bond of shared hardship and mutual reliance. In the vast, lonely expanse of the frontier, this small circle of brothers is the only thing that truly keeps the darkness at bay. And as Gaius finally lies down on his hard pallet, the quiet breathing of the 7 other men in the room is a sound of comfort, a promise that he is not alone. For tomorrow, the horn will sound again before dawn, and the cycle will begin anew. These are the moments that forge the true strength of the legion, not the brutal discipline or the superior tactics, but the brotherhood, the contubernium. These 8 men, crammed into a tiny leather tent or a cold stone barrack, they are more than just soldiers. They have marched together, bled together, and faced death together. They share their food, their money, and their deepest fears. They are a family, bound by an unbreakable bond of shared hardship and mutual reliance. In the vast, lonely expanse of the frontier, this small circle of brothers is the only thing that truly keeps the darkness at bay. And as Gaius finally lies down on his hard pallet, the quiet breathing of the 7 other men in the room is a sound of comfort, a promise that he is not alone. For tomorrow, the horn will sound again before dawn, and the cycle will begin anew.